All right, guys, we're here. We're here only a mildly late. With a little bit of a nervous little pooch. It's okay, baby. How is everybody? Are we late? I guess not. We will just not count it as being late. Welcome to the third annual Cringe stream. As before, I will list the names because you guys, the names will appear on the Loinies form to vote for your favorite cringe. Uh so I'm going to randomly pick different numbers so you guys don't know what order they're in, since we know some people have just submitted. And yeah, we'll see what you guys have come up with today. There are 7 entrants. I think I already said that. Also, let me appropriately greet everybody. Rainer, what's up? Bobby, what's up? Duke, Spooky, Monty. Feel like I saw Reaver in there. Welcome. Happy New Year's to everybody. It's okay. It's not meant to be a chore. It's meant to just be like fun, flush out any cringe, just have a good time. All responses are valid for cringe. So we're just going to jump right into it. Pick our first story. I have to keep track of which ones we do secretly. This one is called, oh my gosh, we're starting strong. Also, for anybody curious, the cringe stream gets kept up unlike the other loin streams, so you can watch it after the fact. Oh my gosh, that goes over my entire face. It is. That is the level we are at. The Pointlessly Sexy Misadventures of Mr. Clint Bortley, Volume 3 is how we're starting. Hello again, dear readers. I'm excited to regale y'all with yet another one of my encounters for you to absorb into your minds and live vicariously through. No, this won't be like the last volume in which the police became heavily involved and I was eventually exonerated from kinda. No, this will be more like volume 1 because it involves the same girl that was in that splendid little tale, Sparkline. We had met at the bar down the street. You know the one. It's by that random dog milking place. Don't ask me about what they do with that milk. Only God only knows. Anywho, she was yapping away with some other lady friend when I saw her for the first time. Sparkline had just parlayed. Sparkline had just parlayed to her one-eyed chum that she had recently emigrated from faraway land that I had never heard of called Arkansas, and she was looking for some guy named John or something. I was obviously more than willing to be that company instead, if you know what I mean. And I remember the first words that she said to me when I approached them. "What the fuck are you looking at, asshole?" Well, I took that sultry little phrase as a challenge and, well, y'all should know the rest of that story if you read Volume 1. But this is about my latest encounter with my darling Sparky, as I like to call her when she's not around me to hear. I kinda had to stop calling her that in person ever since she whacked me over the head with a broomstick the last time that she heard me call her that. I didn't mind, though. I know I'm growing on her, and she's definitely growing on me. I think those bumps might be growing on me down there too, but I don't think Sparkline did that. So yeah, I saw Sparkline at the bar tonight, and we said our usual hellos. How much for this? How much for that? No, we still can't kiss on the lips, and the old "you sure you're not a cop" line that she likes to throw at me sometimes during our more romantic conversations. You see, that's how it's done, fellas. When you want to romance these bar ladies, you gotta play it smooth. Talk wise. Also, bring about $100 or so. Don't ask me why it works. It just does. Trust me. So anyways, we head back to my 1995 Honda Odyssey / current living arrangement to make some sweet, sweet love. We last double the amount of time we actually do back there, about 3 minutes, and then we relax for a bit in the back seat slash current bed. After a few minutes of her muttering, God, what the fuck am I doing with my goddamn life, under her sexy breath, she starts putting her clothes back on. I stopped her and asked, Sparkline, what's wrong? She's just looked at me and started to fill her eyes with a clear, non-white substance. I just never imagined that it'd come to this, selling my body to some hideous ghoul of a man just to get a fix. I'm sorry, but I just can't believe that I've sunk this low in my life. Well, Sparka, Honda Odyssey. What's wrong with a Honda Odyssey? I got a beef with Honda, but Sparkline, I reciprocated to her as I cleaned myself off. Maybe you should get back to that faraway land that you're from. You know, Arkansas, or whatever you called it. You know what, Random John? She responded. I think you're right. I think that I should go back to that Little Rock. I think I should go back to Little Rock and move back in with my ma. At least there I can get clean and maybe even get my life back on track. I'm just so disgusted with myself right now, having to go anywhere near that horrific thing that you call a penis. God help me. And with that, Sparkline finished putting her clothes back on and hopped out of the car. My bachelor pad. Not before she looked back at me and said, Thank you, Random John. I don't know why she kept calling me that, by the way. My name is actually Clint. It's because of this extremely disturbing experience, this truly miserable encounter, that I have decided to get my life back on track. Before I leave here, she threw my money to the floor and walked away while saying, I am no longer needing that. You look like you definitely need it way more than me anyway. I'm going home. And here you have it, ladies and gents. Another incredibly sexy misadventure by yours truly. Piped down a woman so good that she got her life back together. And she even let me hit it for free. Ain't a man prouder than me right now in the old state of Pennsylvania. Well, since I got those $100 back, I might as well go check out that dog milking place I keep hearing about. Bye for now. C. Bordley, holistic medicine practitioner. Oh no, Reaper! Oh no! I just closed the number generator, my bad. That is our first story. Is it you? Is this you? Oh no. Happy New Year, zombie! Let's put a thank you. Hitting it hard. These are anonymous until the award ceremony. They're anonymous. So you don't get to know. That's how it works. Because otherwise, how are you going to be able to vote for it unbiasedly?
Notepad window, text editor, editing, scan. Screen reader support enabled.
I'm actually over here getting sound out of places.
Dialogue. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Narrate when OBS 30.
That's what happened. Look, this is the extra part of Cringe, is the narrator just... the computer narrator just turned itself on. I hope that only just happened. Now I gotta get the next now playing up here. The next one is called Accounts Payable. Bubble bath time. Have a good one as you listen to Cringe. I never wanted to be a murder accountant. I spent my youth training to become a botanist, a worthy and admirable profession. But of course, Mumsy had other plans for me. She's a murder accountant, and we come from a long line of murder accountants battling the foulest of money laundering revolutionaries and subversives. As her only child, it fell on me to carry on the murder accounting legacy. But I don't want to go to murder account college, I told her from my perch on the uncomfortable wool wingback chair in the visiting chamber where I had been summoned. What is this freaking fourth wing? The chair is actually a dragon. It was a lame opening defense, but one that most succinctly summed up my feelings. Mumsy donned her second worst scowl. Why not? Realizing my mistake, I glanced around the visiting chamber. Of course, the only escape was through her. Because it has murder in the name, I didn't raise a child. I didn't raise my child to be a chicken shit. I opened my mouth, ready to retort. You didn't raise me at all, because it was true. She'd sent me to a crèche the day after I was born so that she could focus on her murder accounting career. I never got the chance to make a retort because she thwapped me smartly over the head. Her parting comment, a cart will be by it in 3 days to pick you up. And you have chickens? Someone is stalking Reaver. There wasn't much to do after that. Despite leaving me to be raised by faceless nuns, Mumsy retained parental rights over me, and those weren't set to expire for another 6 months. I was fucked. Maybe I should explain murder account college. You learn accounting. You learn murdering. You run the daily risk of being murdered by your classmates. There's always a severe shortage of murder accountants, probably for this reason. It is fourth wing. Hey, Vanya, welcome. The cart arrived in 3 days as promised. Two of the crèche mates hopped aboard with me. I knew instantly that I'd hate the blonde one and like the brunette because blondes are mean and brunettes are nice. I don't know the blonde's name. It doesn't matter. He dies in the next scene. The brunette's name is Oliver. I'm Calliope, by the way. As mentioned a couple of sentences ago, the blonde died because it isn't enough that Murder Account College is incredibly lethal in its education. They also installed a murder obstacle course each student has to overcome to get into this goddamn school. It accounts for a third of the class's fail rate. Most parents who send their children to Murder Accountant College hate their offspring and want them dead. I'm the rare exception in that my family is insane enough to think that murder accounting is an honor. But murder accountants, you get a calculator and a gun. So, what is this murder obstacle course? I'm sure that you're imagining an arrow beam over a ravine. What's the word? The parapet? You feel like you know who this is? Oh no. Man, accounting is boring, be like. Anyway, I'm sure that you're imagining an arrow beam over a ravine or some such. Nope, it's clowns. I won't say any more. You want to know so bad? Enroll in Murder Account College yourself. Oliver and I survived. The blonde did not. If he weren't so mean, I might have felt sorry for him. But since he was, it was a blessing that he died. Clowns are very cruel. Back to my story. Once you enter Murder Account College, you gotta build your own shelter and craft your own supplies, and you start with nothing but a small lump of cast iron. It took me to it's fourth wing plus Minecraft. Hey, gal. It took me 2 whole weeks to forge an axe and build a log cabin. After that, I made butter and penicillin. We're getting a throwback to Avalon Timefall now. Don't ask me how I got all of these 6 skills when I was trained as a botanist. I'm not even sure. When I was done, I let some of the other new students, including Oliver, move into my log cabin. We quickly became a tight-knit little band because telling is better than showing. When did we go to class? A good question. Apparently, teaming up is something the educators of Murder Account College never accounted for. Accountants failing to account. Get it? Yeah, anyway, the official mission for the entire school became murdering us. The other students weren't allowed to team up, so they attacked our log cabin one at a time. No shit. They stood in line. Because I'm a top notch engineer, despite having no formal training, the only apparent weakness to my design was the chimney, which they kept trying to climb down. It was not a weakness. We were never short of meat. Over the next 3 years, the entire murder account college eradicated itself through their ceaseless attacks. The pass rate for our class plummeted to 5%. We ate very well. Ironically, as the only survivor of our class, we graduated with honors. Mumsy was very proud of me. There's a bunch of stuff that happened between now and then, and it's all quite interesting, but I'm ready for tea and biscuits. In summary, I became a money laundering revolutionary fighting against the murder accountants because they're nasty commie fascists who deserve to die. But Mumsy is okay with it because at least I didn't grow up to be a chicken shit. So they're cannibals too? That's character development, okay? Punch trees. Oh my gosh. That's just 2 out of our 7. That was amazing. where where taxes? Oh, I'm sure they're coming. Don't give me the same number 3 times in a row. Uh-oh. R.I.P. Who wants to go to murder account college? Accountant. Oops! I just destroyed that. Shh, shh, shh. You thought too much. All right, guys. The obelisk with the thickly woolly socks has a message for you. Don't enter the ballerina school. They will make you stand in the fountain. I should say this one is called Welcome to Skulls Hollow. I forgot to say that. The host of this humble radio broadcast is Maurice, and I welcome you to Skulls Hollow. We welcome Salazar Wilmington Hieronymus Guilford III, last of the floating silicone orbs that have funny accents, to the studio today. He's here to tell us about his upcoming rock harvest. So, how's it looking? Well, the obsidian spires are coming in nicely. The tallest one is 3 quantum loops high. Wow, that is huge. How did you do it? Now, I can't go giving all of my secrets away. Those are valuable. But I think that it might have something to do with giving them 3 years paid maternity leave and raising their pay to the bones of demons. After they formed a union and went on strike last year, I have been working closely with them to make sure their needs are truly met. Wow, that's incredible. Now I'm particularly interested in the granite fruit this year. I love a good granite lime pie. It saddens me to say that the granite trees gained sentience, uprooted themselves, and left to form a commune out in the cosmic swamplands. I couldn't do anything but watch and wish them best of luck. So, there won't be any granite pies this year. That is truly unfortunate. I guess I'll have to settle for apple pie. Thank you, Hieronymus, for the update. Your unlucky numbers are pi to the 14th digit, the square root of 734 and -2. Now on to the weather. The sky is green and a giant eye is watching you, as it is watching all of us, as it is always has, and always will. Bask in its glorious gaze. You are being watched. Embrace the holy gaze of the giant, all-seeing eye. Our top news today is reports of people's shadows acting independently of their hosts. We go to our intrepid, interrogative reporter, Jamal, who is on the scene. Howdy, Maurice. I'm standing here with H, pronounced H, y'all know, like the letter, in front of the rundown Megamart, who was a victim of this unfortunate event. Tell me more. Well, Jamal, I was hauling bulk minute eyes and bat wings out of the Mega Mart, and the second I exit the store, I feel this weird sensation, this tugging down at my feet. And I walk a few paces further to the late afternoon daylight and saw my shadow aggressively tugging at my shadow feet, which were attached to my real material feet. My bodily feet, some might say. I stood and watched, my mouth agape, seeing him, no, it rend himself from me. Once it was completely detached, they skipped away, doing a little jump and click with their heels, and now I've got this weird, uncanny feeling that I'm missing something. Thank you for your story, H. Yes, Maurice, and the other dear listeners to the station, I have interviewed a number of shoppers at the Mega Mart that report the same thing happening to them. The phenomena has been contained to the Mega Mart, as it would cause mass chaos if it happened all over the hollow. Now, Jamal, have the shadows been located yet? Where would they run off to? I have no idea, Maurice. I'll have to do more intrepid interrogating and report back to you. Thank you, Jamal. We will keep you updated as they come in, dear listeners. Who turned out the lights? It's the shadow people. It's your shadows. Now we go to one of my favorite segments, Judge Maurice. For the record, I am not an actual judge, as we have no judicial system. However, I do judge your social faux pas and make fun of you. Then I tell you what you should have done. Let's be real. That's the only type of judgment that matters. Not, jail time. It's making fun of you. Oh, baby. Come here, my little Heidi baby. Gollum referee writes in, "Greetings, Maurice. Recently I was referring a Golem match for some younger hive spawns. Now we changed the rules a bit for the little ones to make the game easier for them. Their brains are smaller after all. A hive spawn keeper didn't realize this and was buzzing offensive noises throughout our entire game, saying that I was a horrible referee and didn't know what I was doing. Well, I walked up to him and said, 'You should learn the rules of the game your spawn play before you go buzzing like that. Now keep it down or I'll throw you out.' Then, when I relayed this event to my father, he said that I shouldn't have stooped to his level. Did I overreact? Well, Gollum, referee, I have to say that you did not overreact at all. In fact, you underreacted. Yes, the proper response would have been to throw him into a dark pit outside of town for interrupting the match. Gollum isn't just some game. It's a sacred rite of passage that must be protected. Grow a spine and do what's right next time. Wait, what's this? I'm getting buzzed by our intrepid interpretive reporter, Jamal. You're live, Jamal. Maurice, the newly freed shadow people have been located. They have congregated on an empty lot between the Dine and Dash and Bank. They have set up tents and lean-tos by ripping the shadows off of anything that they can get their ethereal fingers on. A crowd of curious onlookers are watching the spectacle. The great eye in the sky is also watching. Not that it wasn't watching. It's always watching. Hey, Gaming Tutorials with Sue, what's up? I should say, Sue, welcome. I know, hugs for the puppy. He keeps hearing a couple of booms. Feels a little mildly uncomfortable. You just killed a man? Bro, don't say that. Don't make us all part of your alibi. It's okay, baby. Have you tried to speak with any of the shadow people? If that's possible, perhaps they can pantomime something. Being on a 2D plane makes communication of any kind a bit difficult, so we're still working on that angle, but the shadow people seem content where they're at, minding their business. Unfortunately, some community members aren't too pleased with the current development. Here is old Tom with his complaints. Yeah, We can't get those shadow people to just camp out there. They're lowering the property values of what what if they're doing shadow drugs? I even sat on one that was sleeping on a park bench. This is outrageous. Something must be done. I say we bulldoze that camp. I don't know how exactly we're going to do that. I reckon that you can just get a normal bulldozer and sort of use its shadow to hit the other shadows, maybe. I don't know if that could work. What they need is a floodlight, okay? They gotta just get as many floodlights as possible and bulldoze the shadow camp with floodlights. Thanks, old Tom. The consensus seems to be the same, Maurice. Something must be done about these shadow people. I'll keep you posted. Jamal out. Thanks, Jamal. Now we can go to our sponsor. I'm not yelling this. I know that it says to yell, but I'm not going to. I refuse. I'm a radio host. I have some dignity. I don't care how much they paid us. I'm not yelling at the top of my lungs. Whatever. Our sponsor is Toxiclean. It's not clean until it's Toxiclean. We shoved all the finest chemicals that we could think of into this bulbous bottle. It'll clean your floors, toilet, your Gurgathay summoning square, anything. That's the ToxiClean guarantee. We put so many chemicals in there that it could clean your nephew's foul mouth. Oh man, does he have a foul mouth? Just last week, a toucan, blue jay, and a falcon came out. Someone really ought to take a look in there. Listeners, it just keeps going. I'm holding up an ancient papyrus scroll and it reaches the floor. It would just roll out the door if I let it. Anyway, let's see what the end looks like. Just what I suspected. It delves into unreadable runes. Where did this ad even come from? Who approved this? Is Toxiclean even a real company? Whatever. He's got an Elder Scroll. The Eldritch Gods are gonna be summoned. They were trying to trick us. Hey, Cubed, what's up? Welcome. Now, then the question is, will the Eldritch Gods or the All-Seeing Eye win that battle? It's now time for one of my favorite segments, consulting the mighty Valdwin the Grand for our fortune. Valdwin the Grand, the animatronic fortune teller cabinet that we stole from the Garthon's death circus way back in the day. Anyway, he requires a sacrifice of blood, which I have a whole jar of, fortunately. Now we gonna do some weird shit with time. Yep. Let me just swap a little bit here, and there he goes. Eyes a flashing and cogs a whirring. I am Baldwin the Grand. Do you seek your fortunes? Yes. Then a fortune you will have. Quiet now, as I peer into the future. I whisper to not distract him. His eyes are a misty purple, and a blue fog surrounds him. He waves his hands, and sparks shoot from his fingertips. I, Baldwin the Great, have your fortune. Yes, I see many a thing in your future. Gird your loins, for a great boar is coming. Yes, a boar. You will do battle with the boar. I cannot foresee the result, but it will be a great battle that will decide the fate of your life. So says Baldwin the Mighty. Also, the chicken place is going to have a special on fried toenails. Get them while they last. Wait, what kind of boar was that? Was it a boar as in something boring, or a boar pig boar? Or a boar as in a drill? Alas, Baldwin was gone silent once again. Oh, listeners, Jamal is on the line with an update, I hope. Hey, Maurice, I'm gonna get right to the point. Pretty much the whole town has gathered here to determine the fate of the Shadow People. Now there is this lengthy discussion about what to do divided between these two camps. Old Old Tom gave a pretty persuasive speech about how we need to plow up the camp. He even said that to discourage more shadow people from moving in, that we should do everything in our power to make their lives as difficult as possible, like installing bright floodlights everywhere to make sure that there isn't a single place where the shadows could rest. Never mind the fact that running these floodlights all day and night is expensive and annoying. Were there any other solutions, Jamal? Why, yes, Maurice. The town's only child, Annabelle, suggested that we build them shadow houses. Looks like she even drew a cute little picture with her crayons. How cute. This is so cute. She drew a slide and a swing set for them. She even gave them a little shadow library and arcade. Oh, the creativity of children. If only my soul hadn't gotten crushed in that mind collapse. Ugh. I might be able to describe this childlike whimsy with something more than cute. Well, okay, what's going on now, Jamal? Hey, Allison, what's up? Well, the town is voting on what to do right now. They've been voting for about an hour, and I don't know when they'll finish. I'll give a traffic update while we wait. The mega highway, which is now 1,245 lanes wide. Oh, so this must be in Texas. Is still backed up bumper to bumper. I think that they've moved away a whole yard this whole week. That's a lot of progress, folks, for a mega highway at least. Meanwhile, the trains and buses are all running on normal schedules and arriving on time. The passengers are all laughing at the drivers. Oh, and I think that's Jamal. Let's see what the conclusion of the vote is. You're live, Jamal. Hey, Maurice. So all the votes are in, and they've been counted with an overwhelming majority going to Annabelle's Shadow House solution. The citizens are all pitching in, providing materials that the shadow people can rip shadows off of. It's truly a sight to see. All except old Tom. He's off in some cornier with a floodlight muttering about property values. What a curmudgeon. H and others are still mildly concerned about being shadowless, but they're content with the current state of affairs. That's great to hear, Jamal. I'm glad that everything worked out. And to you, Skulls Hollow, I bid you farewell. Good night. Good night, Spooky. Thanks for hanging out as much as you did. I hope you feel better. The town's only child. Bruh, no worries. Oh, you're having trouble following along. Okay. I got you. It was a radio station. It was a variety show for sure. I liked the variety. Also it's like a day in hell. The eye is watching. Imagine living in a place where the sun is actually an eyeball and every time it blinked lights went out. And to make sure that I don't mess up the titles. The next story is called A Match Made in Hell. That would suck. That would describe a lot of cultures that had a proactive sun god. I'm sure there's a story somewhere this time. Stay there. Don't move. Don't get up. No, you're so comfy. I just wanted to give you a treat so you could be chill. Be chill. The day that Whalekun found himself in hell was the happiest day of his life. Well, death, I guess. But you get the idea. The point is that when he reached the doorstep of Satan's humble abode, he would soon find that he was actually in heaven. He knocked on the door, and a white-haired man opened with one hand, twirling a broom in his other hand. "Ah," the man said, "you must be the newbie. You're a little bit of smaller than I expected. You might even be able to fit through the doorways without breaking it." Whalekun looked down and noticed that he was indeed way smaller than he was when he was alive, though conveniently his dork was intact, even though it had been shredded. That's that's because of the way that I died, Whalekun replied. But what's it to you anyway? Are you Satan's butler or something? The man shook his head and gestured downward at his long crimson coat. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm actually Satan himself. Do I look like a butler to you? No. I just happen to value cleanliness and given what's written about you, I think I'm better off for it. Anyway, come in. Hey David, what's up? Whalekun hesitated. Are you sure? I mean, this is hell, after all. Aren't we supposed to be like getting punished for our sins or something? Satan sighed. Well, yeah. But you're one of the least bad ones that ended up here. Believe me, you could be worse. Way worse. God just hands all of the dead that he doesn't want over to me, and I can do with them as I please. People like you, well, let's just say there's a reason why you appeared in the nicest part of hell and not outside of my office, somewhere crummier. I'd really rather leave you to your own devices than think up pointless punishments for you when there are more deserving than you who I'm forced to deal with. Now, you didn't hear this from me, but there's a guy in the basement who's committed every sin imaginable. Every sin? Satan nodded. Every sin. He didn't even wash his hands after touching a rapist's dick. Dalen! Oh no! Whalekun gasped. That's horrible. That's totally barbaric. And it's because of that, along with everything else he did, that his punishment is that he has to castrate himself every day and then reattach his dick with nothing but a needle and a thread. Oh no! He even gets a different tool to cut or rip it off every time. No, Cube. Sorry, we can't. Damn, that's brutal. But I guess it's nothing that isn't deserved. Of course, Satan said. I may be the devil, but even I don't completely lack honor. I wouldn't come up with this punishment that's disproportionate to the sin committed. Now, having said that, he stepped aside and gestured toward the back door. You might be interested in the pool outside for various reasons. Whalekun waddled through the house and opened the back door with a flipper, and it was then that he saw the love of his life floating in the pool. Boat-chan, my beloved, Whalekun almost sobbed in delight. Oh, how I missed you! Long time no see, Whalekun, Boat-chan said. It's been terribly lonely here without you. How have you been? You look smaller than the last time that I saw you. I've been on a diet, Whalekun said, chuckling bitterly. A diet of nothing but air and grief. But now that we're here, I'd like to add you back into my diet. Oh, Whalekun. The boat is back. Despite those statements being cringe as fuck, Boat-chen swooned at the sheer romanticism of her lover dying from selfless neglect because he missed her that much. Oh, Boat-chen exclaimed, I don't know if he told you, but Mr. Satan left some protection in that shed. Do you want to consummate our reunion right now? You know it, Whalekun said, as he went to the shed to retrieve the anti-shredding condoms that Satan had conveniently left inside. He put one on, and the two of them engaged in hot, steamy whale boat action in the pool. This is spooky. This is a throwback to like last year, I think it was, where the story was to write a love story about a boat. They made a lot of noise, but luckily Satan was wearing a pair of noise-canceling headphones so that he wouldn't hear the booming wails of happiness and loud, lewd boat growls. He let them do their thing and didn't complain, except when they decided to do the deed in his outdoor campfire. Satan was pissed, but his mind was tired from thinking of creative punishments for the other residents of hell, so he decided to put off punishment for the sea-crossed lovers and their sin until next year's cringe stream, I guess. The end. For now, at least. Yeah, so spooky. Um, Boatkun and Whalekun and Boatchan were in the Lamoille for falling in love with for the love boat story. You should know it by the image if you go looking for it. And somebody in there wrote a story of a whale falling in love with a boat, and obviously they get intimate, and the boat shreds the whale's dork. And then I think the boat sank. It's been a while. Tragic. Yup. Oops. Oh, there we go. The next story is called Curved Ball. I hope you guys are ready. Yep, that was it. Thank you, Thank you, Rainer Chen. For those uninitiated or lucky, the ritualistic ball right after the whole 3 days of diplomatic meetings between the Empire of United Dragons and the Federation of Yakasha sounds like it'll be a blast. Multiple people were traumatized by Fourth Wing this year. But to be honest, it was nowhere near the gala of prestige and luxury as it first sounded. Otherwise, I wouldn't be hiding here in this small tea room annexed by the dancing hall. It is a shame that I, Ellison Storm Muncher von Saukoko, the first human commoner to be in the presence of two immortal realms, cannot appreciate the occasion and the festivities. The drinks and the sofas are nice, though. All in all, it was just old yakshas in slim human forms discussing tariffs, trade deals, and border security with old dragons in similar human forms. The conversations permeated to a ball itself, even overshadowing juicy gossip of which dragons had slept with which yakshas while the meetings were still going on. What a waste of a nice dress and all of the makeup I have on. Not feeling the music, Xenophil's voice came from behind Xenophil. The perfect mix of edge and angel. I turn back. His black, spiky, and shiny hair looks even better than usual. His black shirt is laced with gold threads, threads that form a meticulous pattern that reminds me of my grandmother's best quilt. He still keeps his shirt unbuttoned, leaving his deep male cleavage and tanned, chiseled abs in plain sight. He's grinning, right hand holding a wine glass while his left hand is behind his back. It sounds like an antidepressant. No, I shake my head, but my body is getting warm. His abs are just distracting, too distracting for an almost 5-century-old dragon. Politics are not really my thing. Well, at least I hope that you've enjoyed the food. Xenophil chuckles. I demanded my father put on something more suitable for mortal tastes, like food from that place with that shiny golden arch. Yeah. I wave my hand, trying my best to not think of the carbs and soda since I'm actually starving. But hamburgers and fries are not really feast material. I thought you're a rebel, he snickers, but it matters not. I have something for you. He pulls his left hand from behind and shows me what he is hiding. A round brown thingy, an unpeeled potato. Where'd you get that? I'm surprised, because such a lowly human thing was never seen or even heard of in this realm of immortals. Growler's Market. He plays with the potato with his agile, slender fingers. This is what you call vodka in your world, right? I was thinking, is this gonna go into a potato shifter? A whole ass potato. Not yet. I shake my head. You need to clean it, prepare it, and then let it ferment. It takes some time before that turns into actual alcohol. Clean it and prepare it like this. Xenophil pulls his shirt to the side to rub the potato against his shiny, almost glowing abs. My heart races, almost jumping out of my throat. Thin potato skin falls onto the ground, following his rubbing motion. I've always known his abs are clean and sharp, yet only now do I know just how much so. The potato skin barely has any meat from the potato on it. Hey! Hey, you're here! Brad comes into the tea room in his signature comfortable loose robe woven with soft but sturdy metal fabric. Soft but sturdy metal fabrics. Ah! I grabbed you some hot fuck sundae. Hot fudge. Hot fudge. I scratch my forehead at this cheery but clueless Yaksha boy. He's always bringing me things I've told him that I like. Some might even say that we are best friends. All right. Hot budge. Brad's smile is as warm as the sun during noon, but it disappears when he lays on Zilliphil. What's he doing here? When his eyes lay on Zilliphil. Careful there, Yaksha boy, Xenophil almost growls as he speaks. I am having a pleasant conversation with Ellison about the vodka. Get lost before I twist your horns into a pair of earrings for her. That's not very nice. Brad frowns at the young, edgy dragon, but smiles at me. But do you want to, Ellison? I can grow the horns back in a few decades. Do you want some Yaksha horn earrings? I know some capable smiths who can make the best. It's okay, Brad. I stop him because horn earrings sound really good, but a necklace will be way better. Thank you, So, Sunday. Brad raises the iridescent crystal glasses with the sundaes inside. Before I can grab it, Xenophil snatches it from his hand while swallowing the now peeled potato. He just ate a whole potato. Brad immediately protests. Hey, that's very rude. Ellison doesn't want this kind of soft, mushy drink. Xenophil scoffs as his stomach growls from the potato, a pleasant ringing sound indicating the use of time magic follows. She wants vodka, like proper lady. He then sucks the hot fudge sundae completely from the glass and vomits a clear alcoholic smelling liquid into it. Here, Ellison, dragon brewed vodka, using my impeccable time magic. I hesitate. The drink does smell good, and I wouldn't mind sucking it off of Xenophil's mouth and tongue, but like with a glass as the intermediary, it just feels off. Oh, on guard! On guard! Deafening alerts blared through the entire place. It's the Fae! We are under attack from the Fae realm! Stay here. Xenophil throws the glass away. I'll be back once we secure a safe passage out of here. I will escort you. I will escort you out once our ships are ready. Brad's hair is wet with the newly brewed vodka, while shards of broken glass are sliding off of his blonde hair. Stay here, Ellison. I'll come back for you. The boys leave. But I have no intention to stay behind. I, Ellison, the first ever human mage warrior gunslinger, am no damsel that needs protection. Plus, I have a feeling that my presence is necessary for the conflict to not escalate, because simply, as I just found out recently, I am also half Fae. Fermenting gunslinger, obviously. Why wouldn't she be half Fae? She's probably gonna be a princess as well. She's half everything. Probably. She's gonna half baked, half lizard. That is half dragon, okay? Half lizard is offensive. Well, the next story is Caspian Wilhelm. Everyone in Price, Utah, knew the story of Caspian Wilhelm. He was found bent in half in a ditch on the morning of June 14th, 1985. He was only 17, and the suspect skipped town just minutes after his death. Cassie was born the night that he died. He was last seen heading to the movie theater with his girlfriend and the best friend of his. Cassie lived a block down from where his body was found and swore his ghost would wander around at night. The last thing that she wanted was to do a return to this town at all. But the old story of mom dying, getting divorced, and having to move back to her hometown was happening to her. She was pregnant, and her husband thought that she'd cheated. The doctors told her that it was a low chance that she could get pregnant by him, but not impossible. The last thing that she wanted was pregnant in her late 30s. The service for her mom was okay. She expected to feel more. That was Casey's whole life, expecting to feel more. More than her husband touched her or yelled at her, more than everyone else was having kids, even more as she learned her husband wanted a divorce the same week that her mother died. Cassie sat down on the couch amongst her mother's things gathering up in boxes. Someone else who isn't 4 months pregnant can move them. She turned the TV on and tried not to think about it. After falling asleep in the orange chair that was here when her mother moved in, she was snapped out of her slumber by a blaring of the white noise on the TV. What the hell? New TVs shut off after a few hours of inactivity. She pushed herself out of the chair, reaching for the TV knob like this wasn't out of the ordinary. As it clicked off, she noticed that her hand, in place of her chubby digits, were long bony fingers lined with metal rings of skulls and dragons. The act of getting to her feet was quicker, with no dizziness upon standing abruptly. The room was wildly different. Where her mother's country cottage chic was, now had contemporary art and furniture in every corner. A large coffee table stood next to her, nearly every square inch lined with rings from drinks, beers with tobacco on the lid, and overflowing ashtrays. Lifting her head, she caught her face in the mirror. Through the dim light, she looked back at the face that wasn't hers. She carefully stepped over the bottles and cans on the floor to get a closer look. A young man stared back at her. A green hat and stringy blonde hair was the only pop of color on him. A faint sliver of a mustache protruded through his skin. Cassie lifted her finger to her upper lip, running her hands along the fine and stubbly hair. One of the figures in the chair stirred and her heart raced. "No, I want out of here," she said. In an instant, she was back in her place. The TV had shut off and the furniture her mom had was back. The next day she spent in the chair, doom scrolling through all of her social media until she was losing her mind. She had no job and wasn't ready to get one just yet, and her mother was already buried. The thought of going to town to eat, to see who still lived there, kept coming back to her. The best she did was order in and have minimal conversation with the girl who delivered her food. The blonde girl was not in the mood for conversation, stating that she had many more orders to go. Cassie ate half of her food and charged her phone, plugging it into the kitchen. Just as she put her leftovers in the fridge, she turned to see the boy again. A large man came around the corner and grabbed him by his hair. "Just where the hell do you think you're going, little mutt?" The young boy attempted to get away or fight back, but the man slammed his face into the counter. Cassie grabbed a knife that was on the pile of food and threatened the man with it. "Get out!" He turned and attempted to take the knife. Cassie freed the blade, slicing his fingers. "You bitch," he said, lunging at her. Along with the knife, Cassie grabbed a meat tenderizer from under the pile of garbage and swung at him. A voice that sounded different than her own came from her. "I swear, if you don't get out of here, I'll end you and bury you in the yard." The man smirked, grabbed a leather jacket, and walked out the back. He walked through a sliding glass door Cassie knew her mother had removed. The boy looked down at the floor and then said, "How long before he comes back crying and whining and you take him back?" The mom put the weapon in the sink and said, "Clean this kitchen. I'll get a restraining order. You better, because if you like you better, because if you like getting hit, you can leave me out of your bad choices." Cassie backed out of the kitchen just as her phone rang. The messy living room was gone, and so was the kitchen. Ada, her best friend from high school, was calling. Cassie answered, glad to have her sliver of the world back. "Hello?" Cassie said, trying to make her voice steady. "Hey, Cass. Are you okay?" All of the tears came at once. She wasn't okay. Her mother was dead, her husband kicked her out, and she was seeing ghosts. Wait, hang on. You saw a ghost? No, Cassie said, wiping her eyes. I saw ghosts. Plural. Was it was it your mom? She stopped and looked at the room around her. The mess from the food order was still on the coffee table. No, it was a young boy, and some meat-headed motorcycle guy. Looked like an extra from Grease or something. Oh, that's new. A long pause came. The next thing was either going to be Ada asking if Cassie was sure of what she saw, or a suggestion of needing to be out of the house. Cassie hoped for the latter. However, the next words Ada uttered didn't help at all. Well, your house is set up a lot like Caspian Wilhelm's was. Cassie sat down and stared at the TV, watching it slowly change shape before her. Not wanting to revisit it, Cassie stood, grabbed her purse, and walked out the door. Hey, can I sleep at your place tonight? The tightening of Ada's throat was nearly audible. Do you still have that shed out back? Cassie asked. Yeah, but my husband likes to meet people who I bring over. Ada, I've met your husband. Yeah, but I have kids. And I'm not addicted to cocaine or a creep, Cassie defended. You're asking a lot of me after not even coming to see me when you first came home. Oh, well, I'm sorry I buried my mother instead of going to your house. You could have come to the funeral, so don't even start with me. Cassie hung up. She had the purse. She opened the door to her car and tossed it in. The keys were in none of the pockets, or the pockets in her purse. After dumping the bag out in the passenger seat, she was greeted by a ghost again. This wasn't her bag. This wasn't her car that she had. This, this wasn't her car, and she had someone else's face. It was happening even when she wasn't in the house. Caspian, a woman's voice called. The body Cassie was in quickly grabbed 2 cigarettes from the pack and placed everything else back in her purse. Oh, are you wanting to drive, honey? He flashed his learner's permit, and she went to the passenger seat. Oh, thanks for getting my bag. The car got into drive and backed out, pulling through Cassie like a wind through her hair. She got out of the car and backed away. Jesus fucking Christ. Just then, Ada rolled up, her kids bounding out of the car before it came to a complete stop. They ran to her, hugging her and calling her Auntie Cassie. Hey, sorry. His son is in the shed, so we're staying here, Ada said. Ada must have read the look on her face because she said, I brought my Bible. Cassie rolled her eyes and followed Ada and her children in. After many years of cooking for the family, Ada served the blandest spaghetti dinner ever. She separated the noodles from the sauce and didn't drain the noodles, so a sopping wet pile of noodles was plopped down on Cassie's plate and a tablespoon of sauce put in the middle. The baby wiggled in protest at the bland food. Cassie took her plate after a few bites and drained the water from the noodles and put an adult-sized portion of sauce onto the plate, also adding oregano and parmesan. It would have tasted better if it had been cooked in, but it'll do. The youngest daughter took issue with Cassie getting up when she wasn't excused. Why would I need to follow your rules in my house? Cassie asked. It's not your house, it's your mom's house, Ada said. It's my house. I signed the papers yesterday, Cassie said. Why is all of her decor still all over the walls? Ada asked. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not quite to throw my mom's shit away portion of the grieving process. Cassie seethed. The young girl spoke up. You said shit. You're a bad person and a nasty woman. Yeah, and your daddy says so, the oldest added. Yeah, and our daddy says so, the oldest added. I don't care what your senior citizen father has to say. Cassie realized that she crossed the line and she wasn't even angry at Ada or her much older husband, even if he was a douchebag. I'm sorry, Cassie said, looking down at her plate. Looking back up, she said, Hey, kids, Why do you say we have a fun slumber party? Oh, can we stay up and telling ghost stories? The oldest girl beamed. We'll see, Ada said. Hours later, the kids had fallen asleep on Cassie's couch, heads together over an iPad. Ada took it in and adjusted them Ada took it and adjusted them into their own comfortable positions. Cassie was in her backyard, wishing her mother hadn't taken the sliding door out. Ada joined her, cracking the window before she did. Years ago, they'd sneak out and smoke and drink fruity beers by the big tree. Cassie shoved her hands into her pockets, finding 2 cigarettes there. Oh, you shouldn't be, Ada started. She went to the kitchen, got a torch lighter and yanked the cigarettes from Cassie's hand. The lack of cough let Cassie know that she'd been sneaking cigarettes. How did you know? Ada asked. I didn't. Caspian stole it from his mom. Sitting down, Ada pulled her phone out of her pocket and showed Cassie the article that she'd found on Caspian's death. So they didn't know who killed him? Cassie asked. No. They think that he was a victim of somebody wanting money and picking the wrong guy. A thought crossed Cassie's mind as she read about the brutality of his death. He was kicked until he spat blood and then stomped on until blood came out of his urine. They snapped his neck and bent him in half, depositing him in a ditch. The smell and taste of slime hit Cassie. She rushed out to the middle of the yard and puked. The scene dissolved around her, and the same voice of the woman came again. Maybe next time you'll think of before sneaking cigarettes from my purse. I didn't smoke them, Mom. This is something else. Do you need to go to the hospital? He stopped puking, wiped his mouth on his sleeve, and turned his eyes filled with horror as the meathead man grabbed his mom from behind and dragged her into the house. He rushed to the door, getting there just as the man locked it. Caspian could Caspian could tell from the way that the bolt was turned that the door was locked too. The woman's voice sounded in his mind. Grab a rock and break the glass. He had to. The rock was heavy, and he damn near dropped it on his foot as he chucked it into the window. No, stupid. Hold the rock and smash it against the window until it breaks. The rock broke through the window, and Caspian kicked the remaining glass out. His mom's scream filled the room, coming from the bathroom. The voice was gone. He was acting on his own accord now. Grabbing a piece of glass and an oven mitt, he advanced, kicking the bathroom door open and jamming the shard into the man's rib cage. Caspian quickly pulled it out and jammed it into his neck. He pulled it out. A stream of blood squirted on the mirror. The big man fell and twitched on the floor, spraying blood everywhere. He was sick again, bolting over and writhing, a man to puke in the toilet. A clattering of noise sounded behind him, and his mom fumbled down the hall. Once he had it under control, he pushed himself up and onto the living room floor to see his mother on the floor, blood seeping out of the wounds on her abdomen. He rushed to the phone, and Cassie was back in her house, staring at the large rock on her kitchen floor. Taillights told her that Ada had left. Oh, she had hoped that she hadn't hurt Ada's kids. God, Ada was so stupid. Why did she have to stay? The bathroom was in disarray as it was in her vision. The bathroom wasn't the only thing that wasn't the thing that she brought back. That phone. A goddamn Garfield cat phone hung on the wall. She hated Garfield, and her mom hated Garfield. The damn thing was ringing. His hand reached for it and placed it to her ear. Caspian? The voice on the other end asked. Yes. How is my mother? She's in critical condition. Do you know if she was pregnant? He hesitated at that, leaving the answer to the question in the air for Cassie and the woman on the other end. I had a suspicion. Well, she lost the baby. I'm calling to tell you that your father is dead. He's not my father, Caspian spat, giving way to a whimpering. I'm sorry. I'll find his next of kin. The woman hung up and Caspian replaced the receiver to the cradle. It vanished and Cassie bent forward, clutching her stomach. She slid to the place that she remembered having a phone, pushing herself out the side door and into the yard. The side button had blood on it as she attempted to press the dial to 911. The call went through and she spoke to the person on the other end. I think I'm having a miscarriage, Cassie said, looking down at the vermilion paint on her pants. They arrived a short while later, loaded her in, and took her to the maternity ward. They were asking her questions that she couldn't answer as she slipped in and out of consciousness and in and out of the 1980s. She woke to the news that she didn't hurt Ada's kids and they'd saved the baby. A nurse with a barely visible snake tattoo on her neck came in to put the covers up around Cassie. Cassie didn't want to go back to the house, and she wasn't allowed to. The hospital kept her for 2 days. Unwilling to go back to the house, Cassie spent 2 hours in a local diner drinking tea and thinking about her life. If only things weren't the same as the time last year, Cassie thought as she scrolled through her Facebook memories. Last year, she had a If only things were the same as they were last year. Last year, she had a perfect relationship. Her mother was healthy and she had the perfect shade of rose tinted glasses. Her first appointment was in a month. That first person that she called after getting off the phone was a realtor, someone else can live there. The waitress came up and asked her if she was ready to order. Cassie looked at her for a long time, fighting back the urge to call her mom. I'm sorry, Cassie said, searching her shirt for the name tag. Her name was Heather. Cassie cleared her stuff and ordered. This had to be Caspian's mom. I still have the fruity pancake thing, coffee with a lot of French vanilla and a scone on the side, Cassie said, handing the menu to her. That's a lot of food. Well, I'm pregnant, so I'll put the order in and bring you your coffee. Wait, I'm stupid. I don't have coffee. I need unsweetened tea. The waitress snorted and laughed. And left. Cassie quickly Cassie quickly looked up at Caspian's mother, finding the waitress. There was something different about her death. He was still killed in the same way, but now he was dumped in a ditch. A search for him lasted about a year until his remains were found in the Indian Canyon. The green hat was found by a tracking dog, and his body wasn't too far away. This wasn't what she read last night, and it still didn't jive with Ada's story about a robbery gone wrong. This is the type of death that's a personal and vengeful. Who, other than the meat-headed man's family, would want the teenage boy dead? Cassie ate her food and thanked Heather, leaving a big tip and exiting the building. I'm going to scatter your fucking bones all across the desert. Cassie turned to a tall brick house of a pubescent boy who had two smaller lackeys in tow. Now, why would you want to do that? Caspian asked. You killed Carrie's father. He told me that he didn't have kids, Caspian said, clearly not afraid. The brick house looked to his buddies for support. They looked back just as confused. It was self-defense. He was attacking my mom, Caspian said. The brick house moved closer. Bike chain, Cassie said. Thinking quickly, Caspian deftly unlocked his bike and whipped the chain around. It wasn't going to be enough. People only attacked one by one in movies. Smash the car windows, Cassie said. Caspian obeyed, causing the alarm to blare away. The big boys said that they'd be back to get and Caspian got on his bike and made his way home. Before she knew it, she was home, coming out of the fog to find herself in her yard. Did she really take her overweight pregnant ass home on a bike? Whose bike was it? She peered out the window to find her car in the drive. No, she didn't drive her car. The ambulance came and got her, and she was going to walk home from the hospital. A silver bike leaned up against the mailbox. She locked the door and went to the side door to lock it. Ada's husband pushed the way through the open door, knocking Cassie down. A hand grabbed her hair and yanked her back. She wasn't in the past. Heather had followed her home and snuck in sometime. All she managed as she grabbed onto something to stop Heather from dragging her out of the kitchen was yanking the front off of her mother's towel drawer. Heather grabbed Cassie's head and slammed it against the tub. It throbbed and blood spilled from her nose and mouth, but she wasn't knocked out. Even though the scene jumped around with every glance Cassie needed to find a way out, Ada's husband left the room, leaving it up to Heather to take care of Cassie. I gotta go to my kids to take care of this, he said. Cassie waited for him to leave and tried to think of how to get out of this. Heather stepped over her, turning the faucet on the tub and plugging it. The only thing that she found that could help her, even a minuscule amount, was a bit of hairspray. Wait! Mom kept the lighter in the bathroom under the sink for when she wanted to bathe with candles. Cassie turned, grabbed the lighter and a can of Aquanet. Popping the lid off, she turned and held the lighter to the can, aiming for Heather's back. Once she was on her knees, she pushed the spray button down and put a barrier of fire between her and Heather. She inched backwards, fingers still on the nozzle and the lighter. Cassie closed the door and pushed the couch in front of it. Cold fingers stuffed their way back into her brain, pulling her up to her feet. With her hands that with his hands on his only with his hands that was only bones, she pressed his fingers into her chest, causing her to breathe, her breath to cease almost entirely. Rot grew from her chest, spreading out to the rest of her until she resembled the shape they found him in. Heather burst through the door, scorched from the chest up. "Hi, Mommy," he said, his voice gargling. The fire was growling in the bathroom. The couch moved on its own. He lifted his skinless hand, wiggling his fingers to bring her to him. "You let me die, Mommy," he said, pressing his thumbs into her neck. "And now you're trying to kill her." Though through her choking, she said, "I didn't. You can't come back. I didn't kill you." "I said you let me die," he said, pressing his bony fingers harder into her throat until it broke the skin and spurted blood on Cassie's face. He was gone, leaving Cassie in the burning house as his mother gurgled to the floor. Cassie went to the door, unable to open it. She unlocked it and tried again. It still wouldn't budge. She ran to the side door to find the same problems. The rock was still there. She had no idea how to get in the window while Caspian had control, but there was no way to get there now. Lifting the rock, she took it to the window in the front room and smashed it the way that she had told him to. The fire roared with the new air. Using a knick-knack, she broke out the rest of the glass and stepped out. She didn't have her phone, her purse, or her keys. There was no going back in there. Fire engines and police lights filled the streets. She crumbled to the ground and watched the house burn. Her baby was still safe, and she was put on bed rest for a few days. The long days stretched out painfully as every thought came to her, ticked away at her nerves. Would Caspian's spirit linger? Hell, would Ada's piece of shit husband attempt to come back and finish the job? The memories were fuzzy. She remembered going home and being attacked using anything at her disposal to escape. Ada's husband learned of her escape and made one of his own. No one had seen him since he left Cassie's home. A kind of nurse brought a kind nurse brought things from the wreckage of her house to her, a journal of her mom's, mixing with hers. It was blue and adorned with a puffy embroidery cover. There was a picture of her on the front as an infant, her mother holding her and her father in the background looking on lovingly. Feeling a string of being an orphan all over again, Cassie opened the book. Feeling the sting of being an orphan again, Cassie opened the book. The first page detailed the process of her mother giving birth, the fear of losing the baby, and the many painful hours of labor. Finally, the apple of her eye was born at 12:05 a.m. on June 14th. Something about the time stood out to her. Taking out her phone, she typed C into the search bar. Google filling out the rest. Caspian's death was a mere 20 minutes before her birth, June 14th, 11:45 p.m. Tossing her covers back, she got her clothes on and started to make for the exit. She needed to get out of here and away from this spirit. However, as she opened the door, the familiar but unwelcome scene of 1985 unfolded around her. The clock on the wall showed it to be 200 hour, and her feet moved against her will, nurses and doctors rushing around her as she walked with determination to her location. He was in control, and she couldn't scream or fight. He was in his mother's room, taking the heart monitors off and closing the door, the blinds, and drawing the curtains around her bed. He was going to great lengths to prevent being caught. A pillow lay serendipitously on the bedside table. Gingerly, he straddled her body, pinning her arms under him. He pressed the pillow down hard, distributing his weight equally to his hips and hands. Cassie fought with him, unable to get out, as if she was already trapped in a coffin underground. The twitching and writhing stopped, and he shakily got off her. His wobbly feet nearly buckled as he looked at her, exertion and horror mixing in him. He couldn't analyze his actions long. As the nurse with the snake tattoo drew the curtains, the shock showed on her face instantly. Caspian punched her in the nose, knocking her back, and punched her again. Cassie cried and screamed within him. No sound came out of her. Caspian had dragged her out of the room, stole her keys and the purse, and dragged her out to her car, tossing her limp body into the back and binding her with duct tape. He slammed the trunk and drove the large boy's house. The door was left open to combat the summer heat. A man slouched in the recliner, beer bottles surrounding his chair. Noise emanated from the back bedroom. Caspian took a knife from the kitchen and followed him around. The big boy had some girl pressed against a wall. Caspian jammed the blade in his neck as he turned to look at who was coming in the door. The girl attempted to get away, but tripped, making it easy for him to jam the knife between his shoulder blades, twisting it left and right until she died. Caspian spied phone numbers written on a notepad next to a phone and dialed them, knowing them to be the cronies who followed the large man everywhere. He called and said, "Get your friends and meet me at the clearing in Indian Canyon." The boy said nothing, and Caspian hung up. She was a little stronger now. Not wanting to waste her strength, she tried to gently nudge him by sending a thought to his mind. "What do you think is going to happen when you kill them all?" He answered by lightly jabbing the knife in the temple, rendering her helpless. The nurse had woken up and was thundering against the interior of the trunk. The boys were there before he was. He blitz attacked them with a tire iron that he found in the nurse's trunk, once again punching her in the face. "You're headed for a lifetime in prison," Cassie said as he tied them up and doused them in gasoline. One of the cronies was Ada's husband. "You can't get away with this." Something happened as he lit a match. A sensation like mom carrying her to bed after falling asleep on the couch overtook her, and she had her autonomy back. The nurse clunked in the trunk again. She had to act fast. She had less than half an hour before she was born. She pushed her hand through the metal and slid in next to the nurse, grabbing the body and pushing the soul in, oozing into her vessel like pancake batter onto a griddle. The nurse's head swam a moment, but then supplied a memory of something in the trunk. She had gotten the tape off of her mouth long ago and quickly chewed the tape from around her wrists, turning around to grab something stuck behind the lining. There lay a bag full of syringes, marked sleepy time. She grabbed a handful of them and jammed them into Caspian's throat as he opened the trunk, plunging the liquid into his body. She grabbed the knife before he stumbled into the lower ground. Taking the knife, she cut the duct tape around her ankles and advanced, dragging him past the now blazing tree to the small creek ahead. He wouldn't be able to fight back. She placed him face down into the water and put his fingers over his pulse so that she could feel the last bit of his life leave him. "Your life isn't worth more than mine," Cassie said. He gargled, spreading bubbles around his head. The heartbeats were rapid at first. Beat, 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 beat. They were slowing down now. Beat, beat, beat. The stillness of the nature acted as a long beep of a coding patient, the waning crescent of lighting up the urine of the blood that followed from him. Grabbing at her keys, she left him, the other bodies in the car, there. The fire would be out of control by the time that she got back to the hospital to be born. With only 18 minutes left, she sped back, drifting into the emergency room entrance and stumbling out of the car. Using the nurse's voice, she told Caspian's sin and collapsed onto the floor. She pulled from the body and ran down the hall to the maternity ward. There was still a chance that his spirit could make it here to stop her. With only 6 minutes left, she passed through the door as her mother was on her last push. Her soul swirled up into the air and down into her tiny body below. His life wasn't worth more than hers. Watch it be a pun. Ah. Maybe this is reverse psychology cringe. It could be. I'm not getting the sense of cringe, though. That one felt like it was trying. Which I'm getting the sense you guys were feeling it too. This is a freaking novella, yeah. That's compared to the other guys that were all fairly small. We've got one more story called Trying What Though? Trying to be more legitimate than cringe. This last story is called Fulfillment. Jack was the only one in the 17 realms on Earth to notice the prophecy on that day that the prophecy said that it would happen, might happen. He went into the library in his house and opened the door to the bookcase and pulled out a book. It was old and dusty, and it was covered in a thin layer of dust. The potato trick, not gonna lie. That one, yes. The potato. He blew it off. He blew it off, revealing the title of the book, like in the movies, he thought. It was just like in the movies. True, true literary classic. The book was titled The Prophecy, and he was curious, so he quickly opened it, muscles flexing beautifully as he did. In it, the book described a person named Jack reading this book, and Jack's jaw dropped. Just like me, he thought. It was just like him. Apparently, years ago, a lady girl was kidnapped by a dragon, and the Jack guy, a lady girl, and the Jack guy was going to have to save her, otherwise, the world would end. The dragon lived in a cave 10,000 miles from Jack's house. He wanted to meet this other Jack, so he decided to see if this Jack was already at the dragon's cave saving the lady girl. He got up and began walking. He encountered his brother Max in the living room, who asked him, "Where are you going?" "To find Jack," Jack said. Max burst out laughing. "That is you. You are Jack." "No," Jack shouted, his muscles flexing beautifully, and ripped the prophecy book in half in his righteous anger. "I'm gonna find another Jack." I'm sorry, Jack. You're right," Max said, and he got on his knees and cried on Jack's feet and wiped off the tears with his hair. It's razor fist writing. Ah. I have to make a note for something. Okay. Now they were all clean for the journey. Jack nodded at Max and grabbed his bag of stuff and began walking to the dragon's cave. His feet started getting sore at one point, so he stopped at a gas station at the side of the road. A woman was working inside, and she yelped in surprise at seeing Jack. "Whoa!" she exclaimed. "You're kind of hot." You do. Get your game on for the honorary cringe submission. We need it, Vanya. If you get it submitted by tomorrow, I want to say I'll put it on the forum. People can vote on it because they can read it on the Discord. That's the best I can do. Only if you want, though. There is a vote. Yeah, there's... So, Cube, you did come in late. Sorry, I'm like putting a pause in the middle of this final story. So, Cubed, as this is the 3rd annual Cringe stream, after the end of the year, during January, a vote goes out for all of the books that were on the Loin stream. So people can vote on their favorite like main character and side character and trope and favorite book overall, favorite Lemoy month, and then favorite cringe story is also on there. So there is just a vote overall for favorite stream stuff, and these count in there. Anyway, wow, she exclaimed. "You're kind of hot." "I know," he blushed. "What's your name?" she asked, and he told her that it was Jack. She moaned in bemusement. Jack nodded at her and told her that his feet hurt and he had a long way to travel but wouldn't be able to continue his journey. She said that she'd take a look at them and took his socks off, and they were bleeding and covered in blisters because he'd walked 5,000 miles in the last hour. Oh my gosh, that's speed. The woman fainted, but woke up again and cried on his feet because she was so sad that his feet looked like that. She wiped her tears off of his feet with her hair, and as she did, they both gasped. Her tears had healed his feet, and they looked brand new, like a baby's, Jack thought, just like a baby's. I'm so sorry for crying on your feet, Jack," the woman sobbed. "It's no problem," Jack said. "I kind of liked it." The woman blinked in astonishment, her ocean blue eyes welling up with salty tears. She was skinny, with large bosoms, frail, helpless. Finally, she was able to speak again. "You're everything that I could ever look for in a man. You're so rugged, manly, chivalrous, and you just have the righteous air about you." Her eyelashes fluttered as tears continued to fall on the gas station floor. She covered her face in her hands. I I'm a beautiful, skinny white girl with my virginity intact. I have nothing to offer but. Another sob racked her small frame, causing Jack's muscles to flex beautifully. Would you marry me?" Jack smiled and knelt down, lifting up her chin to look at him. "You're a beautiful woman indeed," he said. "But I have to meet Jack. He's going to save a lady girl according to the prophecy. Now that you've healed my feet, I can continue my journey." She blinked at Jack. "Wow, a bisexual. You're so brave." Jack nodded. He was brave. He readjusted his bag and continued to walk. Soon, he heard a shout from below the bridge that he was on. "Who's down there?" he shouted. "Be warned, I'm armed." Armed. With arms. An ugly troll oozed up the bridge, leaving a moist trail of substance in its wake. When it spoke, it sounded like a gravel in a grating way. When Jack spoke, it sounded like gravel in a sexy way. Two different sides of the same stone. "Hello, Jack." "Hello, Jack," the troll said. "You have come a long way." "I have," Jack said. Then he realized, "Wait, how do you know my name? And what's yours?" The troll's face went dark. "I've read the prophecy. Also, I am your long-lost twin brother, Jill. You took all of the good traits in the womb, leaving me ugly and bad and with a girl's name." Jack's face went pale at this. No one should be stuck with a girl's name. That was terrible. "What do you want?" Jack asked, readying his arms. His muscles flexed beautifully as he did so. "Your soul." Jill frowned. Jack frowned too, but for different reasons. "Or, at least part of it. I have lived in suffering my entire life, and though I know that it's not your fault, I know that you have a wealth of good in you, enough to spare for me to have a better life." He thought for a while. He didn't want to give up any part of his soul, the very culmination of his being, to some smiley trash bag, even if he had extra. He thought back to his childhood and he didn't get straight A's in school because he'd gotten 2 grades above that because he was so smart. He got an idea and smiled. "I can do that. I can give you my soul." "Perfect," Jill said. Jack rummaged around in his bag before pulling out a small shoe. He tore it into twain, throwing the bottom half at Jill. "There you go. My soul." "I hate fucking homonyms," Jill said, and then slithered away, drowning in the creek below the bridge. After the screams subsided and Jack knew the evildoer was defeated, he continued on his journey. He was almost there. He reached the bottom of the hill and laughed. He was atop. Soon, he would find the other Jack and the lady girl that he was rescuing. He walked up the hill and entered its moist crevices. The dragon's cave was a tight fit, and he was a large man with rugged looks and muscles that flexed beautifully, but he kept sliding in and out of the tight, wet shaft, moaning in pain as he did so. Soon, he was face to face with the dragon. "Who are you?" the dragon roared. "Jack," Jack said. "But I'm looking for Jack. He's here saving a lady girl." "She has a name and feelings and personality, you know," the dragon said, but the male author didn't care. She had boobs, and that's what mattered. The dragon rolled his eyes. "Whatever. It's not like you'll be long for this world anyway. My name is Redfire the Massive, and I'm here to stop you." "Me?" Jack cried, but in a manly way. "But you're supposed to fight Jack from the prophecy, not me." "You are Jack from the prophecy." At this revelation, Jack's eyes began to glow, a very special locket that he had in the back of his and a very special locket he had in his bag of things that was given to him by his grandpa also glowed. They magically combined, and Jack's muscles flexed twice as beautifully. The locket shot out a beam that killed the dragon instantly. Jack blinked, returning to normal. Whoa! It was all that he could say. Suddenly, from behind the charred corpse of the evil dragon, a lovely lady girl appeared. Her bosom was plentiful and her eyes fluttered as she made eye contact with Jack. She looked lost, helpless, and innocent, like a child, something Jack would want to protect and never ever let go. She was all Jack had dreamt of. He could hardly control himself. You killed the dragon? She asked. Yes, Jack said, all through the skills that I gained on my journey. Wow, she said. It was all that she could say. Then, take me, Jack. In the deep wetness of the cave, he ravaged her body, taking from his prize everything he wanted and more. He had fulfilled the prophecy and wouldn't stop until he filled her too. The end. I hope everything is okay, Vanya. Phrasing. I think that was the point. This is making up for a lack of puns. So many puns. So that concludes all of the cringe. You guys brought it in force. So now you got to prepare. You got to remember. It was so good. This is why I also specifically love the cringe streams, to just like let it fly, to do whatever. And guess what? If you expanded on some of these, you could have a TikTok sensation right here. So many TikTok sensations. I think the potato gestation vodka, the next big thing on TikTok. Anyway, keep an eye out to the community tab for when the votes go up. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your New Year's Eve or New Year's if you are New Year's. And have a good New Year. Stay safe. See you on the other side of 25. And don't die. Always a pleasure. I meant to say always also a pleasure.